Welcome back, everybody, to the Hit or Die podcast. It's only been like a month or so. Even that, I think we've only done like two, or I've only done two on the last few months. Kind of just been a dad, dude. Been doing the dad thing. But I want to say thank you to my guest today, or co-host, Josh Labandeira, making the trip all the way down to Madtown. I appreciate you driving down here, brother.
I love coming to Madtown.
And I know everybody's excited to hear what you have to say, as they always are.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yes. Well, so how is the scout life treating you?
Just busy. I mean, it's that type of year. It's that time of year where, you feel pretty good about where you're at on the college guys. You have a lot of history with them, so them and how they're performing or maybe not performing might be expected. But most of those guys are turned in. They've been cross-checked. They've been seen by the guys that need to see them, and the reports are in on them. But now's the kind of time, like, you're wrapping up, like little pop-up guys, like, the Twitter dudes start popping up right now. A kid throwing 95 at Los Gatos, or kid throwing 100 at Intercom, or all the way up in Vintage, or the guys just start popping up all over the place, and you just want to make sure that you've seen them and you have something on them. And actually, you might roll in it, and it's ends up being kind of a prospect. So Logan Webb was a late in the year kind of guy, so you got to go see him and make sure. Joe Ryan was a late in the year kind of guy too, out of high school. So you just want to make sure that you've seen him, in case something goes off. What
and this may be a dumb question for some may not know or think about it, but like with the college guys, being that you're not draft eligible till your junior year, do you start the books on them as freshmen, or like a guy like Murph Gray who breaks the lineup early? Because some guys don't get in the lineup till sophomore, junior year. Right. But if you find a guy that's got a freshman playing every day, are you following that? Or are you waiting maybe a year or two to get?
You want to start tracking their progress. You want to start, whether not just from a performance standpoint, but more so like you start looking, mechanically. Say a guy has a really successful freshman, sophomore year, he comes out as junior year, he's not quite swinging the bat the same. You have something to go back to and look at, reference. And plus, anymore, it's like I've always preached, like creating history with these guys and having that type of knowledge. It helps you with your bosses, and it helps you when you really want a player, or maybe it helps you in not taking a player. People think we're always out there, like, yeah, we're out there trying to acquire guys, but we're also trying to guide our, people maybe off of a player as opposed to being on the player. So it's just, you want to, going back to your point, no doubt, like, you see a good freshman, you want to make a reference, put them in a category. Because if a kid's playing as a freshman, they're typically a little more advanced than some of the guys that came out of high school already. So you want to make note of that and start the process.
And I think we've touched on this before. I'm sure even more so now, like the notes and communication within the organizations at an even higher level, considering you're at 20 rounds. Like you can't, I don't want to say a wasted pick. There is no wasted picks. This is a business at the end of the day. But like, it seems like with 20 rounds, every pick matters.
Absolutely. There's, it's, I apologize. It's really hard. It's getting harder and harder. If they keep eliminating teams, that's less roster spots. That's less opportunities. Every year there's 20 rounds. Well, that's 20 players that we either, get hurt and their careers they're on the shelf, or their careers are over. They've been released. So that's 20 guys we're bringing in, but we're also having to let 20 go. Not to mention guys that have been there already that might be in their fifth, sixth, fourth, fifth year with us. So it's getting harder and harder to be a draft pick, and you're not wasting picks anymore, man. Like, especially in the top 10. There's so
and I don't mean that disrespectful.
No,
like you used to see, like when it was 50 in the 50th round.
Yeah, you take
a high school kid that is not signing.
We did it. My first year, we took a kid named Carter Aldretti. He was committed to Arizona State. We likely knew he was going to school. Nathan Margarella was a later round guy we took too, who the Padres eventually drafted. Carter got drafted by the Giants. So they're kids that you probably spent some time with. They're kids you might have like a little gut feel, might be a dude. say you drafted Spencer Torkelson out of high school, all of a sudden he's the first overall pick. Hey, man, you were onto that guy.
Right.
So it says something about, your scouting a little bit. And it's, Aaron Judge, Jermaine Clark was the A scout. They drafted him out of high school. That's, hey, man, Aaron Judge. You pat Jermaine on the back. Hey, that was a nice pick, man. Even though you didn't sign him, hey, dude, still give you some love for it. So, yeah, it works like that a little bit,
The other thing how's the golf game been?
Dude, you really had to bring.
I'm
that
just
up today
asking the golf game. Not yesterday's. Not yesterday. I'm just saying, in general.
I wish Marcus was here to help me out, but no, it was it did not go as expected. The golf game is taking a hit in the practice side. So
you say this though, but you would destroy me. Like, this isn't just. Like, I mean, you take your golf game very seriously.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at, bro. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus.
I like to play. I like to get out, and it hasn't gone the way you draw it up lately. When you're thinking about golf, and like you don't think you're gonna miss every green when you're in the fairway. When you're second shot, you don't think you're gonna double putt. 2-putt every hole. So. Yeah, man, golf game's not real sharp right now. So hopefully when the summertime rolls around, we get back out there a little bit more consistently and play a little bit more.
I got to get a round in with you. That way you can see what I'm talking about.
We'll always go out.
I will slow it down for you a little bit.
That's fine.
Cool. Hey, talking baseball, again, this is something we haven't been doing anything for a while for whatever reason, just a lot of life things going on. But the JUCO World, the Central Valley Conference is full swing. Fresno City and Merced, I believe, are tied at the top at 14-5, followed by, I believe it was Taft, Reedley College, COS, and West Hills. It's crazy how the season seems. I was talking to one of the high school coaches, and I've been to a handful of games, but this season seems to be just flying. They're already into 20 games in, and just a few weeks left to go before playoff time. But again, the JUCO season full swing. It was cool. They got to play at Fresno State this last week on Monday, Fresno City and the Reedley College Tigers. And I think they did an exhibition type game last year at Chachansey Park, so that's pretty cool. But I don't know where their series are at this week. But did also want to get into the Dogs a little bit. And before we talk about the Dogs, we had a passing of a Dogs legend in Inman Perkins, who was a longtime Bulldog baseball supporter, Bulldog athletics supporter. And you got to play for the Dogs kind of in that prime where Bennett State or Biden Field was always kind of packed out, and you had Inman Perkins every game, Sugar Bear out there. Just kind of talk about maybe like some of your memories of him or that, just those times while you were there.
Probably first memory is, not as a player, was going as a fan as a high school junior during the Johnny Quick. We happened to have some seats that were right behind the first base dugout. And, in between innings, he's up there, give me a B, and he's leading these chants, and he's got the whole stadium rocking. And then all of a sudden, he's on the third base dugout. He's doing a little bit over there. So big loss for Bulldog baseball. Sad day for the program. Lost one of the top fans, supporters in the history of Bulldog land and Bulldog baseball. That guy was a fixture at the ballpark. In his red outfits and Bulldog gear, head to toe, passionate, loved it. He made that experience for, if you're first time at the ballpark, a lot of times I'm in there and there's either a new cross checker or somebody in there and they hear that, they'd hear him doing his chants and they wonder, is this like a first time thing? And it's like, no, man, this guy's been doing it for years. So big hit for the Bulldog baseball, lost a huge part of the fan base and, can't say enough to hear him as a player up there and get this. I was on the tail end of that. I'd say like the heavier years were probably 4 or 5 years prior to me getting there, where they were drawing like
that Jeff Weaver,
the Weaves and
early
Petties,
90s.
And I'd come up in high school and that place would be elbows to belly buttons. All the frat and sorority houses would be up in that section M and L, and the stadium would be rocking $1 hot dogs, $1 beers, $1.50 beers. It was insane. So too bad we can't get back to those days. It's like $11.50 for a hot dog.
I paid like
now, so.
$6 or $7 for a bag of seeds.
Yeah, you know what, man? The food at the stadium though is awesome.
It is.
The burgers
absolutely
are killer. My kid crushes one every time I take him there, and I think the programs, they're doing well right now. And I'm sure, we'll talk a little bit about, Ovi, but he's doing a great job. I think, seeing and being around these high school kids in the fall and doing some of the scout ball, like there's like a little different buzz, like kids are wanting to go to the stadium. The roster's got quite a few local boys on it that are names. Murph's having a year. The Schneider kid's been doing a good job over there. Anchor from Tulare has been awesome. So there's been a lot of little local names that
you got Saldivar came
Eddie
back.
Came back.
I'm sorry, Tyler Davis behind the dish, Memorial guy, and then guys coming in like Tyler Patrick, Clovis West kids going to the state. Munster's already there. The kid from Redwood, is it Rico?
Eric Rico's coming. The right-handed pitcher's committed.
Madeira kid,
Ariano. Yeah, we got some. There's some really good.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, man. I think keeping these local kids and just generating the buzz around here and getting them to the ballpark and seeing what it's all about. And they've done some nice things over there. They fixed the turf behind home plate, and the ballpark looks pretty clean. Like it's a great surface, and it's just. They're doing some good things over there, and I think the community's kind of noticing a little bit.
I love it. I think you're right. I think you're seeing, like I go now, you'll see guys tailgating, getting there even earlier to start tailgating for baseball games. Like it's
having the local kids, man, generates so much buzz. Like, I can speak from experience. Like this is like this was like the big leagues. Like when you were playing at Fresno State, like you were like you're the big league team in town essentially. Back when the Fresno Bee was rolling, your faces on the paper, and they're writing articles and stuff. And it's just Bulldog baseball is always been a awesome thing around here, man.
It has, 100%.
And it's fun to see them rolling right now. It's kind of seeing them back in action, like what the Dogs have traditionally have been,
Yeah, they've been hot lately. Currently, Dogs are 25-11 overall, 14-4 in Mountain West. I think they won like 6 in a row before falling right there at the end of the series to New Mexico over the weekend. Dropped one this midweek series Tuesday, which is kind of interesting because I hear people talk, or I'm on a certain group in a messenger group, and a lot of people refer to like these midweek games and why they struggle. And I think I would point most of them, go look at the box score. It kind of, every Tuesday pitching wise kind of plays out the same. I didn't look at this last Tuesday's box score, but the prior 4 Tuesdays, they used 24 pitchers in 4 games. That's kind of what they do in the midweek. Is one, you're giving some young guys opportunities. That Anchor is a great example of that. Right. Last year was a lot of Tuesdays, would sneak his way in on the weekends, and but all those innings worked into. Now he's the Sunday guy.
Experience.
Obviously, he's kind of hurt right now. He's out right now, but still, that's kind of what those Tuesdays are.
Hey, pick and choose. Those Tuesday games, the road games, you'd like to win those road games for the RPI. And obviously you don't want to be losing at home, but it's just, every program's a little different. Some programs have set Tuesday starters, but the majority of them, man, they're giving guys opportunities. They're picking the right spots to get some younger kids some experience to maybe put them in some situations that maybe aren't as, stressful. Give them an opportunity to kind of wet their feet a little bit rather than just throwing them to the wolves against Auburn at Auburn SAC school or something. So a Tuesday night game's a nice game to kind of get your feet wet if you're a freshman. And typically as a hitter, you're not going to be seeing that Friday dude. You're going to see. And if you're a hitter, man, you should probably get some hits on Tuesdays. I think that's why you see some higher scoring games on Tuesdays because of what you're talking about. You're seeing a lot of different arms and typically
probably a lot of younger guys
your weekend starters, your Friday, Saturday guys are typically out here on West or they're good, man. Like they can throw it a lot of places.
They're the ones holding clipboards on Tuesdays.
No doubt. And sometimes, there might be a guy that's going to throw on the weekend. Hey man, they might use that as an inning. Ricky Tyler Thomas used to do, he'd throw an inning on a Tuesday, just like a little kind of like a live bullpen, where he's throwing 25 pitches or something, lighter pitch count. So,
well, Chad and I hit on this last year during that postseason, the playoff run in college baseball, where I want to say it was when Oral Roberts went up to Oregon, and Oregon had nothing left in the bullpen, but guys that had less than 5 innings pitched on the year. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, these Tuesdays are these guys are getting mound experience, they're getting mound time. So when it comes time to, let's say the Dogs continue this momentum and find their way into the postseason baseball, regionals, you may never know who you're going to need. And if you got to play 4 games,
Right.
These Tuesdays are where you kind of find, who's the best option and just getting guys mound time. So it's obviously you want to win,
Right.
but it's I'll never forget Coach Bates was saying, sometimes they hadn't won enough or lost enough. I'm sorry. But again, they're playing well right now. Bats are hot. It's the weekend series have been great. They've been getting the pitching. This weekend they're hosting San Jose State at home. They will be honoring the legacy of the late Bob Bennett, Hall of Famer and legend Bob Bennett. Saturday's game against San Jose State at Fresno State. For tickets and all your info for Fresno State Baseball, go to bulldogs.com. We kind of talked about the job Ovi's done, and you've seen the landscape change. And again, another thing we've talked about, but how the portal's been used while signing guys, and to be kind of a mid-major, I think Ovi's done a great job. What do you say to that, especially with West Coast baseball? Because it seems like West Coast baseball's kind of been
declining.
Yeah, taking a back seat to the East Coast, the bigger,
It is. I mean, I'm not going to say, you can't sit here and lie and say it's on the same level. It's not even close on the same level. There's a few programs out west that are stronger than others. On a whole, I do see it declining. It's like older rosters and more transfers. You've got more youthful performers or guys that might not have been at like we talk about the portal, like the guys that have been at bigger places, maybe not at big name schools, but they performed. They're at big schools now. Those schools have gone out and got them. So the West Coast has kind of been, man, we're losing some guys. So hopefully there can be a little bit more stability out here, but the way these conferences are changing and teams are going to be traveling across countries, and it's going to definitely change the type of baseball and quality of baseball we're going to see on a consistent level out here. There's going to be few programs that are going to be able to continue what they're doing just because of the money that they have backing. But on a whole, I think we're already seeing it, man. I mean, we really are. It is what it is.
How do you feel? What are your thoughts or your personal thoughts when you see teams that, good for the players that committed to their schools or whatever and then have a good season, and then, it's rob the poor to feed the rich.
Man, it's hard to,
I don't
know. It's hard. You understand, I completely understand it. It's like one of the local coaches and I we talk about it all the time. Like, what do you do? I have a son. I know a lot of guys that, your boy's sitting there and a school's going to offer him opportunity to go to college and put money in his pocket. It's hard to walk away from, man. A better opportunity, a better conference, better competition, better coaching, just better travel, everything's better. How can you discourage your kid from going there? But then again, where's my loyalty?
Yeah.
I'm forgetting about how I got to where I was at, what made me who I am today. And how about that school that passed on me? Now all of a sudden I'm attractive to them. They didn't want anything to do with me. Where's that chip on my shoulder? Screw you. I'm going to prove you wrong. Now it's oh yeah, pay me. Oh yeah,
if the money's right, I'll come.
Yeah, man,
I can get over my hatred for you not wanting anything to do with me a year ago for the $250,000 you're going to pay me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Do you swallow your pride? For me, I'd have more of a chip on my shoulder. Nah, dude, you didn't want me, man. You had a chance at me. You wanted nothing to do with me.
I wonder how many guys did it and found out the grass wasn't greener, or ended up in the same boat.
I think it happens all the time.
Because you don't hear
those stories.
You hear about the Tommy Tanks who go
right
from NC State to LSU, and you see the success. They go win a national championship, and he still puts up career numbers,
right?
But got paid for it. You don't see a lot of those stories, but those are the ones that are blown up. You don't,
right?
Instead of seeing how many guys actually leave to a situation that was even worse than they left.
Correct. And then they end up in the portal again, and they end up somewhere else. So, I don't know, man. The grass isn't always greener. I totally get it if from a financial standpoint, if these kids have opportunity to get a chunk of money and on an NIL or get a car, a vehicle. Dude, how do you walk away from an opportunity like that? But like I said, man, I think it boils down to, you tell me Brooks Leak didn't have a chance to leave Cal Poly. Yeah, his dad's a head coach, but that guy's like San Luis to the bone, to the core. It's just, Are you telling me that nobody went after Murph or
Oh,
Amper
no,
last year?
yeah,
You know what I
100%,
mean? Like, I'm sure
100%.
that happened, like,
Yeah.
and it's going to continue to happen. I just wish it wasn't like that. It's I don't know. I think from a professional level, like, I would be embarrassed if I was out recruiting other people's players. Like, what's that say about the job you're doing right now? Like,
Yeah.
I'm recruiting other people's players that developed them to get them better. And the guys that I recruited, I couldn't get better. I don't know, man. Like, it's a slippery slope. I don't want to say something that upsets anybody,
I don't think I think you're right on both ends. I think there's both sides of the coin that
yeah, I mean,
that they fit, that work. It's just so different of a landscape just in the last
every year I
5
see all
years.
these guys that are these top recruiters, but all of a sudden they're raiding the portal. Like, dude, if you're that good of a recruiter, then why are you out raiding somebody else's program or picking somebody else's kid out of some summer league that you happen to roll in on? And I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of that. Like, I think just from a professional standpoint, like, I wouldn't do it to somebody else, and I wouldn't want somebody to do it to me. I just think it's a disrespectful. Yeah, it's competition, all this and that, but you should have been at the front lines when this kid originally committed, and not, hanging your hat on your recruiting class that you had that didn't actually pan out.
Right.
So I don't know. We're allowing those guys to be rewarded for not doing a good job.
And it's
then
not-
at the end of the
yeah.
day, we congratulate them for winning. Like, winning with other people's players, it's hard to stomach and swallow at times. But
Well, you're praising these, and not that they're bad coaches. That
No.
they're great. I mean, they wouldn't be Division I baseball coaches if they didn't have a grasp of the game and knew how to recruit and fundraise and win and know the game and teach it and all of that stuff. But like,
there's some frauds out
maybe
there.
you can question how great you are when it's with none of the talent that you recruited.
Well, I struggle with it when I see a program like UCLA. Like, how are you a pitcher and you would leave UCLA? Like, you have an opportunity to learn from one of the best pitching coaches ever in Coach Savage. Like, why would you leave that? Like, is the money worth it? Like, is that money up front worth it, as opposed to like staying with him and making a ton of money on the back end because of what you learned being
Right.
with him? Like, is that, and I think everybody always we're going to that, what can I get now?
Yeah. Well, no, never mind the education
Right,
that you're getting at UCLA either.
So I think that's when I struggle with it. When I see, a Braden Montgomery leave Stanford, like, it's Stanford.
That was
dude.
a surprise.
Stanford. I called that back in February.
Did you?
I had a feeling he was going to leave. He's from the Southeast area. It's just a higher profile for him. So that wasn't a big surprise. But looking at it, like, it sucks, dude, because that guy would be at the top of my pref list this year. He would be the number one dude on my list right now. And where we pick, I don't know if he'd get to 12, but hey, man, I might have had a shot at a first rounder. But now he's he's back east. So it changes, like, definitely, like, every fall. It's hard. I look at these rosters and I see tons of names and that I didn't recognize from the year before, and you start looking and there's tons of different schools. So there's a lot of schools that fall into that category. But hey, man, if you're successful in doing that, then keep doing it, man. If that's the way it's going to be, then keep doing it.
You're kind of staying on with the draft stuff coming. I mean, the draft is going to be here before you know it. Mm-hmm. We talked kind of like how 20 rounds makes it just difficult even for you and your job. But from a player standpoint, again, now with lesser rounds or 20 rounds, a kid in JUCO or, locally here in our area, we're in Fresno area, a kid that goes to FPU, like, be honest, like, what do they have to do to be a part of that 20 rounds? Because you can't just go be an average JUCO player.
No, you have to have, your statistics have to be like, junior college statistically from a position player, man, you're going to have to hit over 400. You're going to have power numbers, doubles and home runs. Typically you're hoping that the strikeouts are way lower than, the strikeouts are way lower than the walks. You don't want a JUCO guy that's striking out more than he's walking. Just because, dude, the competition level is going to go up a significant. It's night and day from JUCO ball as a position player to into pro ball, just the pitching alone. On the pitching scale, though, I mean, it's totally different. I think the way that you have the data and the spin rates and all of that stuff is, if you happen to throw at the right place and they have a TrackMan and they catch your data and you have good data and your stats back it up, there's a lot of swing and miss in zone. and the spin's right, and there's something unique or maybe different to your release height or extension, or whatever that team may value. I've found that, yes, that there are a lot of analytical things that teams like, but it does vary from organization to organization. Like my team might like the shape of a guy's slider and another team might not. Or my team might like the guy's spin, but another team doesn't, and vice versa. So from a pitching standpoint, if you're at the lower levels, man, if you get on that track, man, or you get somewhere there, they're getting some readings on you and they get that data, that can help you out significantly. But from a position player standpoint, you better have some really silly tool, a 7-run tool, an 8-run tool, a 7-power, 8-power, 8-hit tool. But even that's hard to grade it like, high contact rate, low swing and miss rate in zone. Like you're going to have to do a lot of things statistically that warrant taking you. If you're if you're a middle guy, man, you better be, you have to be a runner. You can't be below average. Like there's not a lot of below average guys that play the middle of the diamond. Like you just got to look at it, man. I mean, it's not anything against guys. Like there's some good players out there, but from a tools standpoint, like they may not match up at that higher level.
And I'm not trying to discourage attending a JUCO. I'm not, because
they should.
There was
more kids should.
There were draft picks in last year's draft that were JUCO. So I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, when you have as many D1s that you have, they're probably priority unless you see a JUCO kid that's got some astronomical numbers.
Right. Like the numbers need to match. Like you can't tell me this guy's got a legit fastball and he's throwing a lot of strikes, and all of a sudden you look at his numbers, this guy got a bad ERA and he's walking tons of dudes, giving up a lot of hits. Like the numbers need to match like what you're seeing too. So just you got to do it statistically, man. Like you really do at those lower levels, the D2s, 3s, NAIAs, JUCOs.
Just curious, that's all. Because I don't, we may have talked about it in the past. It's been so long since we've done one of these. I don't remember. Like and I want people to know. Like here, this is the honest truth.
This is just hard. It's harder, and you just don't see it. Like my first couple of years scouting, there were guys, and don't get me wrong, Joe Ryan went to Cal State Stanislaus, dude. Stalmont went to this is a Pacific.
You're a product of the JUCO.
I'm a JUCO guy. Like you can say there's product. Chris Schwinden went to FP.
Yeah, yeah.
You can name. There's guys that have gone to like
Murdy. There's a handful.
Yeah, I'm talking about big leaguers.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
like it's hard. It's really hard. Lucas Ursig ended up being a Menlo guy, but that guy was a Cal. So Vesia was a Hayward dude. I mean. These guys,
Dylan Lee was a COS guy.
They come from everywhere.
Yeah.
Do certain programs typically produce more? Yes, they do.
I guess I'm just saying, to get eyes on you, you got to be different.
Yeah, there has to be something unique, or you have to have a separator or multiple separators.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what your guys'
the Cedarland kid. We used him from Merced. That guy was 97 miles an hour with a really filthy slider. Did he throw a lot of strikes? No, not necessarily. But the guy had a chance to throw 100, and he was throwing 100 before he got hurt. So, just
like, is it obviously it's risky just based on projection alone. But like, if you see a JUCO kid that's like, damn, man, there is that here, but that's probably a bigger risk than a guy than D1 that projects.
Correct. And really, man, the JUCO guys, you're kind of like, if it's a hitter, you're like, dude, you might turn them in super late just to identify it. You're probably not going to throw a lot of money at it. But then if he's in and he goes to Cal, or he goes to Fresno State or San Diego or Bakersfield or something, he ends up turning into a guy, then you have some history with him. But typically, man, those JUCO hitters, like, you're going to want to see him go perform at the next level, which would be the D1 level, as opposed to kicking him out to pro ball and saying, hey, man, here's 95 every day. We don't know where it's going, but here's 95. Good luck. So,
yeah, and I just wanted to get some of your take on that. And again,
definitely harder.
Like locally, baseball around here in the Central Valley. Again, we get a lot of listeners in Sacramento and some spots all over the country, which again I appreciate, and I'm glad that look at the numbers. People still downloading is pretty cool, considering we haven't done much. But local area. Again, they said there's some guys that are going to Fresno State, but it seems like I don't. This is kind of why I don't know how to get into this part of it, because this is kind of why I've been not doing the podcast. All right, we Chad and I had gotten maybe Chad more than me, but like sometimes people don't like some of the honesty, and it's not to be mean.
Never.
It's not to hurt feelings. It's not to be disrespectful. It's not to even say that there's not good players in the area. There's a lot of good players in the area, and I can tell you I've been to probably about 10 high school games this year, and I've seen a lot of good players, but I've also seen a lot of. I don't. Again, this is why I've been struggling to do this, because being honest sometimes pisses people off, as you well know. Mm-hmm. But like, I feel like some of the things I've seen is like instincts. Like, and I've told a number of people about this. We've talked about this. I just feel like instincts are not maybe what they once were, and I don't know if that's because of these guys right now in high school played a lot of travel ball.
It's different. It's way different.
And the game's also played differently. Like it's just a different game than we grew up playing, or that we were taught how to play. Like IQ, like and so when I'm saying bet instincts, like where to go with a baseball,
right?
How to run bases, secondaries, like
the base running is hard sometimes. I know that a lot of guys work on it, but I don't think a lot of these kids take pride in it. You see base running blunders all the time, and it's not from a coaching perspective. It's kids having awareness, and it goes back to what you're talking about, the IQ. I think the little like intricate parts of baseball are being lost, like the little fundamental type stuff. Like people are way more eager to go travel and play in a tournament than they are to stay home and go out and get, an hour of ground balls on Friday, an hour on Saturday, an hour on Sunday, or 2 hours of work, an hour in the cage, an hour of ground balls, or just there's those things are just being lost. Like I see more kids playing. I don't see a lot of kids practicing.
Yeah, and I think there was that clip. It was a few months ago. It was Gino Ariema.
He talked about the European
players coming into the States and having success, and just kind of their philosophy being, they practice 5 days a week to play once on the weekend. Where we're practicing 1 or 2 days a week to play 5 on the weekend.
Yeah, or we're working 1 hour with our, and I'm guilty of it because I work with kids. But I'm hoping that like that's not the only time they're working that week.
Right.
And because if they are, then man, if kids are getting lessons and that's the only time that they're doing what that they do at their lesson, that's the only time they do it, you're not getting anything out of it. Parents are wasting money. Your kids, if you're going to spend money on your kids getting lessons, they need to be doing and applying the lesson work on a daily basis when they're not in front of the guy instructing. Parents should be filming at bats. Like if you're that in tune and want to make changes, like, hey man, start watching some swings, maybe video your kid from behind the plate. You can see what his pitch selection looks like. Get on the side, get the side angle. You can see what kind of mechanical moves he's making. Is he direct to the ball? Is he coming around the ball? I mean, you don't need a hitting instructor per se. Like it's nice to have a guy you can go back to and reference, but you can't solely just be like, you just can't like, it's hard to hit that way sometimes per se is what I'm saying. When you get in the games, like, hey man, we can control the environment in the cage, what we're working on and stuff. But when in the games, man, you got to sometimes separate the stuff you're doing in the cage per se and just get in the box and compete. And if you're working and practicing the right way, those things will come out in the box. So, I mean, you're always a chance you're going to start falling back on some bad habits at times. You get in the moments where pressure builds up, where things speed up, where you make different moves. But if you're practicing on a basis and I should say if you're practicing consistently and you're working on things that you work with your private instructors on, then you should see some progress and hopefully it starts carrying over to the games. But dude, I mean, to defend like a hitting coach, like, man, we're not in the box hitting for the kids either. So a lot of it falls on the kids and grasping a lot of what we're, throwing down, and hopefully they're picking it up and making reference of it and being able to apply it. And hopefully we're giving them applicable information.
Yeah, I'm not trying, it's hard. Like, I'm not trying to say that baseball's not good. Because I know we've said that in the past on here.
It's good. It's very good.
It is. It is good. It's just I'm seeing things that, because I know the coaches in this area are pretty much the same coaches. I know what Kevin does at Clovis West. I know what, JD's going to do. I know how he's going to practice his staff. I know what Pappy's going to do. I know what Underwood's going to do. I know how these guys work and how they I know what they teach. They teach all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So is it, are we just seeing all these years of playing on the weekends creep its head into high school now? And there's a lot of things that were missed when these kids were younger that they didn't get. Because you can't blame the kids. In my opinion, I don't think you can fully blame the kids because
a lot of these seniors were what, seventh graders when COVID rolled around. So we're kind of seeing like the 4 or 5 years out of how it affected some of those guys. And so it's just I think it's just kind of the way the way the game is today too. I don't think it's necessarily the coaches, man. Like you said, we know how these guys coach, but a lot of it boils down to the parents and what's happening at their houses. What are the parents telling the kids? Are they telling the kids, hey, man, you need to be buying into what your coaches say? God, Coach Hurley's dad, Coach Hurley with the UConn just talked about
basketball,
it. It was a great segment when he's talking about like they're going into and the same for us when I'm scouting guys. Like, man, we're scouting parents too, man.
Yeah.
How are you a fan of your kid? He said it perfectly. Are you a fan or what? Are you a fan of
or
your
the
kid
agent?
At some point you got to be realistic with your kids and be like, hey man, you got to get better, dude. And you got to work harder, or hey, maybe you need to know the signs, or you need to hold your kids a little bit more accountable, and help instill what the coaches are trying to teach them as opposed to detour them off of what they are. So I don't know, man, like a lot of people don't realize like we're out there looking, like when I'm scouting guys and I do in-home visit, man, I'm gauging the parents, man. I already know I like the kid. That's why I'm sitting on his couch, dude. I'm kind of gauge the parents. Am I going to have to worry about signing this kid and all of a sudden there's some tweet or email to one of my directors or one of our player development guys about his kid? Like, I don't know if that's going to go over real well, like how's that going to play out for your kid? I don't think the coaches are going to be really excited about it. How many situations do you leave where you felt like, man, they were completely oblivious to? There's times like I'm out. As soon as I leave the house, that's the last time I'm there. That's it. Like
how do you deal with that kid after that situation? I mean, again, this is probably too much info or personal, but like it's got to be. Yeah, I mean, sure, college coaches deal with the same thing. Like, how do you deal with that player in the long run at the end of it?
You still scout them. You still scout them. I mean, you still scout them.
You got a job to do.
Yeah, you have a job to do. So you still scout kids. But like, honestly, there's times that you're kind of like you leave the house and you're, man, I don't know about this one. This one I'm going to have to really like do a lot more work on, or have to kind of dig a little bit more and see where they're at. But you just, a lot of guys don't realize it, man, that they can affect some things. So they got to kind of settle down with some stuff. Yeah, I would just encourage some of the kids. Like, again, some of the games I've seen, it's just take harder secondaries. Find a way to get to second base. Right. Reading balls in the dirt. Like, it's been really poor, that kind of stuff. Or, like, just knowing where I need to go to the baseball before it's hit. I mean, I've seen a few games where 3 or 4 runs were just pass balls, and it's like, runner on third, a couple were one knee instances. And I'm just like, that doesn't play here. Like, to me, I struggle with, I've struggled with adapting to kind of the new variety of baseball since the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, it's definitely different, man. It's like you said, it's just way more playing. I think that's like the first thing that everybody wanted to do when we got back to COVID was play. I think people were tired supposedly of practicing when we weren't supposed to be doing anything, but people were, still doing some stuff. So I think playing was like everybody wanted to play, and that's what they got when everything opened back up, and we've kind of just carried into that. I mean, I'm all about playing. I'm all about that's fine. The travel or club or whatever you want to call it, like play, but don't play for so long, and or so much. I'm all about playing too, man. I think playing's great. But like, why can't you shut it down in August? Why do we have to play into December? I mean, like, that's just me. I don't feel like that's necessary. Look at the arm issues that we're seeing. Look at the high school level. You've got some of the top pitchers in our area. Hey, Trey Morris last year, who's a really talented young player, pitcher. Same with George's at Clovis. And, Ariano here at Madeira High, good lefty going to state, had some arm issues. And it's like, I would only contribute it to maybe overuse. Or arm care, or I don't know. It's a combination. We got to remind kids all the time at scout. Well, hey, did you run? you get your pulls in? Do you ice constantly? I think it's a combination of both. Definitely some overuse and overextended use. Guys are throwing all spring and then they pitch all summer and then they pitch deep into the fall and only take 3-4 weeks off, and then they're right back at it in December getting ready for high school. So it's definitely a combination of things. I think everybody's chasing this velocity number, and I mean, I get it. I'm one of the guys holding the radar guns. I get it. You're trying to appease the guns. But if you start looking at it, man, some of these guys that are throwing really hard, they weren't throwing hard at young ages. They started throwing harder later on in their careers. And their bodies are staying a little bit more durable and holding up better. But some of these guys, it's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress on those joints and tendons, and especially when a smaller frame dude's moving his arm so fast, it's creating a 95 mile an hour fastball. I mean, that's a lot of pressure and stress on just from a biomechanical standpoint, whatever. But it's kind of coming with the territory. I mean, I think look at, Verlander was talking about it the other day. Like, everything starts up top. I mean, if you look at the way things are in the big leagues, these guys are throwing petro. It's max effort. It's not necessarily control command oriented. It's more velocity driven, power driven.
He was talking about these guys are throwing as hard as they can.
Yeah,
and also trying to create as much spin as they can.
Absolutely.
And he's like, listen, the media was trying to point fingers at the pitch clock, which, I mean, I get where that could probably be kind of an issue, but he's like, it's a matter of about 10 things. And he kind of went in, and you haven't seen that clip on, I saw it on TikTok, but Justin Verlander gave a really good little clip, and he was talking about starting pitching and like incentivizing,
no doubt,
going deeper into games.
That would be awesome.
For starters.
For sure. I don't know how you incentivize it. They were talking about the DH and losing it. And I mean, that's probably, if him and Scherzer have been collaborating, I'm sure that they have some interesting ideas. But
if you can get a starter to go, every 5 days, right? If you can get him to go as deep as possible, you don't have to throw these relievers 2 to 3 innings every single day.
See, but I don't know if it's so much about being able to get them to go that long, or is it the numbers are saying that they shouldn't go that long because statistically the third time around hitters are going to have more success. So it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, you got to look at it from an analytical standpoint too. Like, and I was going to go back to it. Like, just because you work fast doesn't mean your arm's going to fall off.
Yeah.
Like, there was pitchers that, I think Mike Mussina used to work fast. Like, get the ball, boom, sign down, bam, nod, boom, he's going to the plate. Like, and then there was guys that would kind of lull you to death. They'd work slow, get the ball, walk around the mound, rub it a little bit, get on the mound.
Like John Lester was really slow.
Yeah, like a guy that works slow. So I don't think this pitch clock thing is contributing as much as, they got to have a scapegoat somewhere though, right? I mean, God forbid that they talk about the training. We don't want to talk about that. We talk more about some of the other things. So I think it's a combination of multiple things that are going on.
Well, I was looking today, just though I could have some numbers, and I counted, so I could be off by one or two guys, but out of arm injuries for pitchers, so this is pitchers only, arm injuries. As of today, we're 20 games, roughly 19, 20 games into the MLB season, 113 total arm injuries listed. Out of those 113, 48 were arm injuries where pitchers are scheduled to return between the end of April and into July. Some of those guys were TJs from last year. Let's see. The next one was, so 48 of those guys will be back. 38 are out indefinitely, so there's no timetable for return, and 26 are out for the season.
Yeah.
And this, again, we're 20 games in.
Yeah. And those numbers will likely continue to go up as the season progresses and the weather starts warming up too, and guys really start getting live with their fastballs. And it's just going to continue. Like I said, man, like we'll reach a peak, and then hopefully they'll find a way to change modify how these guys maybe are throwing, or maybe these guys are training, or maybe some of their recovery time in between. and maybe they can get to a solution where we can get those numbers under control, and we don't see, pitcher after pitcher going under the knife.
You talked about kind of the way they manage it now. Like, so when they look at the third time in the lineup, and then these guys tend to get hit a little more that third round. or that third go around. And I guess I would think like, well, at what cost do I need to pull this guy for starting his third round with the, with this lineup versus overusing my bullpen and losing a guy to the IL for the season? Like, can I push it to give him, can I get 3 more outs and get through the 7th?
They're all case by case situations. Yeah. Everyone's going to be different. Like, I mean, if you're talking the 7th inning, and dude, just go to the bullpen, dude. But we're talking 5th inning, like 4th inning.
Let it ride.
Yeah, like, come on, man. Let's get them a little bit more extended. You start getting to the bullpen every night. In the
that's what I'm saying.
Inning, like, it's going to be.
If we're playing the tactic of we're here, we're
no
the third time,
but that goes back to using your instincts. Like, we're talking about baseball, like having instincts. Hey, this guy's cruising. Why are we going to pull him out? Or hey, man, this guy, they're hitting some balls hard. We're actually, as we would say now, we're kind of getting lucky because they're squaring up a lot of balls there right at guys. So, hey, man, they're on this dude. Maybe, maybe it's time to go to the bullpen. But man, they're all case by case situations. I mean, dude, if a guy's cruising, man, you got to kind of let it ride. And I know numbers are numbers, and they're easy to see and go with. But sometimes you just got to use your instincts, man. The numbers aren't always right, and I think that's what's hard about the way things are going now. Is like we tend to lean on the numbers like really heavily, like they're always right, and they're not always right. There's always a percentage on the other side of the equation.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. Nobody talks about that part.
Yeah. So. We're saying hindsight, and that's where he goes, he could have did this or that. Well, at that given moment, the numbers showed. Well, okay, the numbers were wrong.
I just hate to see a trend of
it's
consistent arm injuries, and I'd really hate to see it trickle its way down into the high school level where, again, these pitchers in our area, the ones that are having arm issues, I mean, their potential to have a long life playing baseball is high, and so I just worry, like, is it going to get talked about enough to where people address some of these things?
And sometimes, though, I mean, okay, we're trying to, you're trying to put it all on, maybe overuse or the guy's throwing too much or the training. But, man, everybody's bodies are different.
For sure.
Too.
For sure.
Some guys are just more brittle than others, and they're going to be more injury prone, and bodies aren't going to recover the same way. Maybe their nutrition isn't the same. Like, a lot of these guys we're seeing, like, what kind of shape are these dudes in? Are they in peak shape? Are they kind of, softer built? So I think there's so many different factors that go into it. Yes, we're seeing and it's all because of velocity. I mean, it really is. That's like the number one culprit that we're talking about. It's because of velocity. Everybody's chasing it. So that's why we're going to have more injuries. It's like, if you're trying to swing too hard, there's probably going to be more back injuries that come along with really trying to swing too hard. It's a lot of torque, a lot of tension on the back, spine. So you see that on the hitting side. They don't talk about it as much, but there is guys that are having back issues now from trying to swing too hard. So I think at the end of the day, everybody's chasing power, whether it's velocity or home runs. And what comes with that is max effort, whether it's throwing or swinging. And when you're doing things max effort, I think there's a higher percentage. I mean, I'm not sitting here. I haven't done any studies, but just through my experience, you see guys that do max effort, they tend to break down quicker than guys that do things free and easy.
Well, and so, I mean, I had a conversation with a guy in spring training this year who was high 90s. We'll say that. And then, had one outing where he was cruising around 93, 94. And he kind of mentioned to me like, hey, I had a decent inning, got guys out, and pitching coordinator was like, yeah, how about no more of this 94 bullshit?
Right.
I'm like, well, 94 with a 0, that plays for me.
I know. That's kind of, even though regardless you're getting outs, they still want to see the velocity to get the outs with, especially if that's kind of like what your driving force of what you're preaching is velocity, and you're not seeing it, but you're still getting outs. It's kind of going against what you preach. So you want to see the velocity. You don't want to see a guy getting people out with lesser velocity. That it kind of goes against what you preach, I guess.
Well, I hope we can avoid some of these arm injuries. Or I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I just know you're seeing it more. It's kind of like the concussion stuff with football when that became the forefront of everybody's conversation, and now they've changed a lot of football to prevent the concussion. So I don't know how you attack that in baseball, considering you have to throw the ball.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about some of these rules changes that like this new catching the ball
dude,
in front of the base.
This is
like,
the one that's got me shook.
That is just That is absolutely absurd. Are we like totally just scared of anything anymore? Like, hey man, the ball might be up the line. If a player has to go up the line to get it, like that guy should not be awarded the base. Or if you catch it in front of the bag, you're blocking the bag. Like, man, that's where you learn how to slide, I guess. Like,
well, it's like
I don't know.
the infielder's not entitled to make a play.
Nah, I'm not on these new rules.
We're favor. I mean, and I get it. It's what people want to see is offense, but you're favoring offense.
Well, and then some of the rulings they've been giving hits on balls that are a joke, absolute joke to me, like a one hop. And I heard the announcer go, "Oh, that ball is 105 off the bat." It was a one hop, 105. If you're in the big leagues, you should field that every time, dude. Every time. That's not a hit. That's an error. Like, or guys are missing fly balls and they're giving them hits. Like, I'm baffled at the leniency that they are giving hits to these guys these days. And they're referencing, oh, I hit it 112. I don't care if you hit it 112. If you're in the big leagues, you can field 112, dude. That's why you're there, because you're used to fielding that and you can do it consistently. Don't, especially a one hopper. Like, come on, give me a break, man. Like, there's elementary kids that could field that ball, and you're giving it a hit. Like, those guys are the best. You should hold them to the highest standards. Like, man, especially fielding, like. Just because it's a backhand, it might be a routine backhand. There's a thing called routine. Like if it's at you, if you don't have to move a whole lot and you're booting it, that's an error. I'm sorry. And there's plays that you have to move on that are routine plays.
I've seen guys go backhand that didn't need to go backhand.
Correct.
And they call it a hit.
Right.
I'm like, well,
just
no,
because
he didn't have to go backhand there.
I heard a funny story about, I don't want to say like Hall of Fame second baseman that was kind of a questionable defender. And the shortstop that he played with, he told him, he said, I backhand everything to my right side. And he said, well, why is that? He goes, well, they don't give you an error if you boot it. And I thought it was pretty funny, but it's kind of true. If you go to your backhand side, you boot it, they typically don't give you an error.
Yeah,
so
tough play.
Yeah, so he typically backhanded everything to his right, which didn't lead to many errors being given to him in his longer career. Very offensive second baseman, which I thought was kind of funny when you hear guys talk about that and like why they would do things. But it made sense. Like, anytime you go to backhand, everybody just assumes it's a hit. It's not routine. Well, I'm sorry, but a backhand play is like a routine play. Now, if you're stretching it deep in the sixth hole and you're fielding the ball on the move, and yeah, there's circumstances where you got to rule it a hit. But man, if you can get to it, dude, and you don't make the play, typically it's probably going to be an error.
Yeah, between that stuff and like the umpires, I've just seen the zone getting worse and bigger and terrible.
I'm like tough on it though, dude. I'm tough on my 12-year-old kid. He'll be like, "Oh, Dad, I had to hit." I'm like, "No, that was a fielder's choice, dude." Sorry. Like, no, like that. He had one earlier in the year where he hit like two hopper to the third base, and he like laid it, and he told me after, that was a hit. I go, "No, that was an error, dude." But Dad, he didn't touch it. I go, "Dude, come on, man, like." Man, like, don't
should be harder on your son. Yeah,
no, it's want guys to earn stuff. Like, you earn it, man. Like, Todd Pratt told me that. Like, when I got called up, he's talking about your hits, man. He's like, dude, you earn your hits in the big leagues. And like, I'm sitting here talking like I got a bunch of them. I didn't get any, but shit, dude, he's right, man. Those balls I hit hard that just didn't find a hole. Like, you earn your hits up there, man. Like, those guys are good. That's why they're there. So. You gotta earn those hits.
Yeah, man. They're definitely good. There's a really cool. I saw a video on YouTube the other day. This guy had like top 10 or I don't remember how many numbers it was, but it was the like playoff home runs. Dude, and Corey Seager's was at one of the top on the list of last year in the World Series Game 1 to tie the game and turning like 98 around and. Off the bat, he knew it was gone. Just the moment, and it's like, dude, these guys are so good. We take for granted what we get to see sometimes.
It's like watching golfers, dude.
Yeah,
like,
it's exactly what I compared it to, too. It's funny.
You go out and watch those guys play golf, and it's like, it's absolutely amazing, like the consistency of contact. And it's no different than, that's why, like, if you're going to go to a big league game, you got to go watch batting practice. You have to watch those guys work, and it's not like, sweat's flying everywhere and there's dirt all over them. Like, they're working at a very manageable and working speed. It's efficient. It's clean. It's smooth. It's just, they've done it so many times that it's like becomes routine. It's just,
but it's detailed too. Yeah, it's meticulous. Like,
yeah, guys come out with like infield gloves on, like, training gloves and they're doing little drills before the game. And then the BP's watching those guys hit. Whack, whack, whack.
There's never not a purpose to what they're doing.
No, and that's partly like, man, when you're training, you're working. It's like I always see dads pop in these little cages when I'm out giving lessons, and they'll hit with their kids, and like they just hit with no purpose. They get in the cage and they just whack balls,
count the swings, and go home.
Yeah, and like, oh, we hit 2 buckets today, but yeah, you didn't focus on it. You didn't work on anything though. You just swung, right. Like like you gotta there's got to be every swing. There's a purpose, man. Like in every situation, there's a swing that should match that purpose. Like there's a swing should match your situation. I think I'm a firm believer in that. Like you have leverage, you have opportunity to do damage. Yeah, man, your swing should match that opportunity. You know, if you have a chance just to put balls in play to create a run, then your swing should match that situation. So I don't know, man. It's a slippery slope we're on these days. Like when it comes to like training and just where we're at. Like it's
well,
very
seems like everybody knows what to do.
Well,
like everybody's got the right plan. Everybody's got. It's like, well, you can't all be right.
No, we there's too many outside influences. I feel like too. It's like we have like a lot of there's some kids. Oh, I'm ranked this. I'm ranked that. Well, dude, none of that mean that doesn't mean shit, dude. You dropped the fly ball and you didn't hustle a ball out.
Yeah.
Like, dude. So if you're ranked that good, then when I come watch you, I should see a dude. I shouldn't see a guy dogging it. If you're gonna play that card, then I'm going to play that card back at you. If you're ranked number 1, then you should play like a number 1. You shouldn't play like the number 200 ranked player in the country. You know what I mean? So dude, keep your rankings in your pocket, man. Let your rankings prove themselves in the box score and what you do in the game. Like those rankings are dog shit in my opinion. Like, they don't mean anything. They're not going to buy you a cup of coffee down the road when you're 25 years old. Who cares if you were the top ranked 14-year-old dude?
Yeah, if you get your D1 and get to the big leagues, and then in 25 years you could say, yeah, when I was 14, I was ranked number 5.
When you're number 1, when they announce your name at the draft and you're the first pick, that's the number 1 ranked dude. Like, sorry, like that's the number 1 ranking you want to have. Like you want to be that number 1 ranking. That isn't perfect game can't cut you a check for $7 million. PBR can't. Future Stars can't. Like. But
they can't get you to start for a high school team.
But we're all cutting them checks, like they're going to pay us off in the long run. Nobody's going to pay you off shit. Like the MLB, like if we come draft you, that's the number 1 ranking you want, man. It is at the end of the day is when the commissioner gets up there and announces your name.
Yep.
So you can be ranked by so-and-so, and if you're 15, 16, like that's cool. That actually just means you got a lot more pressure on you. There's a bullseye on your back now. You got to live up to the hype. So if you're going to throw it around and act like it, then you better play like it.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't. That's the other thing too. Like, you can't get upset when people. Oh, I guess he's not number 1.
No, and there's 30 different opinions, man. There's 30 different teams. There's going to be 30 different guys at the game that are all going to. Man, I've never left the yard and talked to everybody, and we all felt the same way. Like everybody sees the game a little different. We see guys different. We notice different things. Like. I was talking to a scout this morning that was talking about a kid that went in the first round about 7-8 years ago, high profile kid. And the scout I was talking to was telling a story. He was talking to a friend of the family, and the guy asked him, I'm sure you were probably all over that kid. And he said, actually, I wasn't. And he says, really? He goes, well, what made you off of him? He said, in between innings, I'd noticed that none of his teammates would ever pick up his glove. They'd pick up other teammates' gloves and they'd take it to him on the field, but his glove always stayed in the dugout. He always had to go back to the dugout. Like none of his teammates. He goes, I got the sense that none of his teammates liked him. And, those are little things like, dude, we look at that shit. Like those are things you notice that might detour you off of a player. Or maybe it's just, hey, man, you go to a game, a guy's 0 for 5, but he scores 5 balls up and he gives you 4 run times that are better than the last one he gave you. That like, hey man, I'm going to come back and see that dude again.
He didn't live and die by that result.
Correct. Like the guy just keeps rolling. So yeah, man, like if you're going to be up there, dude, you got to play like it.
I love it. It's why I love having you on too. Cause parents, kids get to hear stuff, straight from the horse's mouth. Like, while you're a scout for one organization, you're around scouts every day. Man. Yeah, like it's
we all
not
talk. We're friends. We all sit in the same stands together. We you talk. Like I have scouts that I'm like really good friends with, and we talk a lot. Like we share, and it all helps us in the long run. Just trying to figure these dudes out.
Yeah. Listen, I can't wrap this up because the biggest story in baseball, even the last couple weeks, has been Shohei Ohtani. Again, I know you work for a Major League Baseball organization, so I know you're probably limited at some of the things you want to probably share as far as opinion goes. But I guess for me, like one, if you listen to our podcast or I've got another one, Watch Your Lips, we kind of went in very deep on this last episode. So if you want to check that out, it's Watch Your Lips is the podcast. But like initially, it's like, well, it's Shohei's money regardless of what happened, who stole this, blah, blah, blah. If it wasn't stealing and this is a fall guy, whatever the case was, it was ultimately like as it started to come out, I'm like, well, it's his money. Like, and then you realize, well, that would have been illegal gambling. And, you know, the reason they don't want to get in trouble is that it's tax implications and like some serious shit.
Not good.
I don't for 2 seconds believe that he didn't know. Because that's kind of where we're at in some of this stuff. Like now I guess he's, you know, they were saying what, 16 million stolen roughly.
I don't know all the figures, man. I mean, just like
I haven't read that FBI report.
Man. Common sense, like just common sense it. Like I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get or say anything that I should. But just common sense it, man. Like, what are the odds that a bookie's going to give an athletic trainer that kind of line of credit to run on? Like
interpreter,
man, I don't know, dude. Common sense it. Like for me, just. The biggest name in baseball. If something bad happens to him, what happens to baseball? Like there's a lot of money out there, man, to be made, and there's a lot of money to be lost. If I don't know, it's just a really slippery. I've used this line a couple. Slippery slope, dude. You don't want to. I just use common sense, man. We'll never know the truth.
Probably not.
But
I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist either, because
it stinks, dude. It just stinks. It's a bad situation. It's like a whole bad story. Period.
Yeah, and I like Shohei Ohtani, so I think Shohei Ohtani is great for baseball. But I mean, I also feel like you're with this guy daily. It's been reported that you're best friends. Talking about it on the other podcast, it was mentioned that he's was placing like 25 bets a day, roughly. Like if this is your best buddy, your interpreter who you're with every day, and he's making that many bets a day, there's just I don't know. There's no way he didn't know, in my opinion. I can't believe that. I can't wrap my head around he had no clue. And then to get had for 16 mil, I would know if you took $200 from me.
No doubt.
Now, again, that kind of money, I bet you we'd be surprised how easily it is to lose it or to have somebody steal from you. So I don't want to say that it's impossible. Not at all.
It happens all the time. You see celebrities
get defrauded a lot. It happened to Dane Cook, got defrauded for millions of dollars.
No doubt.
So I'm not saying that's not possible, but I mean,
he was making that many bets a day, and they're that tight, and they're spending that much time together. Like I'm sure he had an inkling that he liked to dabble in the gambling world. Maybe there was some questions going on about game. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, dude, we're never going to know the real story.
No.
It just sounds like a political scandal.
It does. It does.
And like Hunter Biden, maybe it's like a Hunter Biden of baseball issue.
I don't want to get wrapped.
Sweep it all under the rug.
I mean, but there is something to that. Like he's going to bring a lot of money into baseball. Look at football. Look what Taylor Swift brought into football.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? She didn't take no snaps. 300 million, just her presence at a game. Like Shohei's going to bring way more than that.
Tons of money.
Interesting idea. I will get into it more as more facts come out. I would be, but the other thing too, like this guy, I think Pat McAfee said it. One of my buddy Burnsy, shout out Kevin Burns. Burnsy sent a video on Pat McAfee just talking about how he's the biggest piece of shit. And
who?
The interpreter guy. But I mean, if you take a look at that dude's haircut, like. Right from Jump Street, I wouldn't trust that guy.
You could put that dude in a lineup. I honestly, like, once this story came out, like, honestly, man, I've been trying to, like, kind of avoid it because you just, like, we're not going to get the real story. So, like, all the stuff we're hearing is a lot of just hearsay and probably rumors. And
I'm sure they want this to be over and get it done 100%. Quick.
Just like the Hunter Biden.
Yeah, let's move on. We'll just keep throwing it under. Yeah. Well, again, more stuff because the number keeps going higher. When it first broke, it was 4 million. And now he's saying, oh, he was in debt upwards of 40.
Yeah.
That he had won over the amount of time, a few years in bets of $100+ million. Mm-hmm. How does an interpreter? I mean, I know it's over time, right? But to win that much and ultimately lose more,
right?
Like, how does somebody not know? How does Shohei's people that work? He's got accountants and financier or lawyer, like people didn't. Nobody said a word.
No,
unless maybe he was in. I don't know. Maybe he was in on it. I don't know.
Yeah,
because you had the thing with the home run that he hit in Dodger Stadium. The first home run as a Dodger in Dodger Stadium. Mm-hmm. That whole situation was a fiasco by the Dodgers by, the trying to get the ball back. Wow. Did you hear about that?
Again, dude, I'm like so disconnected with some of the stuff that's been going on.
It's 2 weeks old now, but still embarrassing for the Dodgers, in my opinion. And then they were saying, Shohei had tweeted about meeting the couple or the fan that caught the ball, and they'd never met. So I don't know, man. It's just it's an interesting story. Again, more will come out. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are on both sides. My side is that I can't for the life of me believe that he didn't know. It's just hard for me to believe that.
I'm with you. I'm kind of like, just like I said, man, use common sense, dude. Like, if there's smoke, typically there's fire.
100%.
Right? So just, I mean, like I said, dude, like, I don't want to get in trouble or say anything I shouldn't be saying. Just, leave it rather vanilla, but just common sense it, man. Like, if it don't look right, it don't smell right, it's probably not right. So
we will see. Again, I'm sure more will break. I'll be interested to see the Netflix documentary on this someday. There's no way that's not going to happen. Lab, I appreciate you making the drive down here, man. It's always fun to have you on. Again, I don't know what's in store. I'm going to keep trying to plug away. I got some more people I'm trying to get lined up as the weeks count down to the end of the high school baseball season in this area. Again, Fresno State at home this weekend against San Jose State, so be sure to check that out. They will be celebrating the legacy of Bob Bennett Saturday, so check that out. Again, gobulldogs.com for your tickets and info. It's another episode of the Hit or Die podcast.